All right. So did we come up with a name? It's Startup Tips.
I think it's Startup Tips.
All right.
I'm pretty sure it's Startup Tips.
Okay. Let's go with that. Um, cool. Well, this is our first episode. Thank you for being here, hosting Startup Tips. We'll do some intros. What you want to talk about a little bit, what you want to get out of this, what we're doing here, who you are, and then I'll go.
I'll start with, maybe just introduce myself briefly to set the context, set the stage without going too long and in too many excruciating details. And then why don't you go yourself, Scott, and then we can kind of talk about why we're here, what we're here to talk about, what we're hoping to provide in value. But basically, my name is Nathan, and for all of those that are going to go look up who we are, just a full starting disclaimer that anything that is said or shared in this recording and this podcast are my views and my opinions only. They're not related to any company that I have worked for in the past or currently work for. But essentially, my name is Nathan. Been a technologist now for way too long. I don't want to date myself because then you're going to stop wanting to talk to me, Scott. But about 20 years, started when my mother brought our first digital equipment corporation computer home from work. I was probably 7, 8 years old, something like that. And the typical story, nobody knew how to get it to work at home. So I got interested and I started playing with it, and I started, figuring out how it worked. And then also fairly typical story for a 10-year-old kid at the time or whatever, I wanted to start playing games on this thing. So I needed to figure out how to add more memory and get a better graphics card and all this stuff that very few people do today, I think. But anyhow, that's how I started in technology. I'd say my first startup adventure was when I was between school, so like summer breaks between school, high school at this point in time. And there's a company that was based not far from where I grew up that was setting up events and conferences. One of these events and conferences was to happen in South Africa, and I wanted to go to South Africa. So I asked the person responsible for the event, how can I go to South Africa? Because I want to try this. And I want to travel with you guys and get the opportunity to go. And he said, well, if you can build a content management system online to manage this, I think it was like 7,000 person event, you're in. And at the time, I didn't know a whole lot. I hadn't built anything. So spent a weekend figuring things out, how to use Dreamweaver, for those that remember Dreamweaver, and databases, starting with Microsoft Access and stuff like that. But figured out that I could do enough damage after researching it and trying stuff for a weekend that I went back the following Monday and told the person that was running the conference that I knew how to build a content management system for a 7,000 person event in South Africa. So he said, okay, let's do this. So I started that. And then that was really my start. So built that. I did get the chance to go to South Africa and, do the event thing, which was obviously a whole lot of fun and what I had set out to do. And after I was hooked, I guess I was into technology. I really liked technology, just wanted to continue. So I got my undergraduate degree in computer science in Switzerland, Geneva, Switzerland. Then felt like I needed to do more, wanted to do more. Moved to New York, got my graduate education in computer science in New York City. And then while I was doing that, started a company that did, or a fellow student and I basically started a company that did, we were trying to break through in like the electronic gift card space, just having like a central marketplace and repository for electronic gift cards. And that failed miserably. It went nowhere. So, that was pretty harsh. We wanted to live the dream and try the startup thing. And of course, the first one we tried goes nowhere. And then after that, essentially was approached by a couple Harvard PhDs that had this idea for, and that had started very early stage, started a company for collaboration and just, collaborative workflows for the construction industry. So how you build massive, airports and stadiums and things of that nature. And they were looking for a person to join them and help with like kind of the technology piece, and have a more established like a technology person join their thing, which is when I joined them, and we built that from relatively small company, which I'm sure we'll have plenty of time to get into the gory details, to a successful story where we sold to a Fortune 600, 500, not entirely sure company. At which point, I joined that company and kind of helped, again, with a lot of other folks, but was instrumental in kind of helping transform that company to, more modern software practices, continuous integration, continuous deployment, automated testing, building, SaaS products, building mobile products, things like that. And I still do that today, essentially, and helped advise others starting their own company as well, on a few fronts, some friends and folks in Europe, as well as some around here. So we can go into all those gory details, but I will stop here so I don't hog the mic, Scott, and give you a chance to speak up.
Well, that's hard to follow. And good. Thanks for the disclaimer. I should do the same thing. All of my opinions are my own and does not represent anyone I currently work for or have worked for in the past. So thank you for reminding me. We'll put a little thing in the beginning. But no, that was really cool. I would definitely want to talk about all the gory details of what you just went through.
And the thing that I didn't say, but it was giving you opportunity to jump in at one point, Scott, is to let everyone know where you and I met, because we have worked together and worked together for a bit, but that's part of your story. So
okay. Yeah. All right. So my name's Scott. My introduction to technology was a little bit different. I wasn't good at math or computer science growing up. I had computers, but that was like dial-up era. So it was pretty easy to get started. Didn't do well in school till after college, which is pretty ironic. We can talk about that. But realized my senior year of college that I wanted to get into computer science, and I was too broke to keep studying. So I decided to start playing with online algorithm trainings. Eventually moved to San Francisco to do a little short stint at a boot camp, which got me started. And then I did a bunch of contract roles in the Bay Area until I got my first internship at a company. Can't remember the name, but they was in like the storage space, on-demand storage. Then one of your ex-teammates made a post on Facebook, and I called him, and then we started working together at Autodesk. So that was an awesome. That was like, I'd say that was my first big boy engineering job.
You were a big boy.
Yeah. And then after that, I was there for a little bit. There's some company stuff that happened, went to a consultancy, came back to Autodesk for about 3 years, and then have been hopping around a little bit since then, doing full stack development, focusing on front end or user interface development as of recent, but started my own company a couple years ago, built it from the ground up with a partner who's mainly product focused, and consulted some smaller businesses on best practices, which is actually kind of terrifying how entrepreneurs are building stuff these days and think just making their life a lot harder for themselves. And now we're here doing a podcast.
Now we're here.
Yeah.
Was that a planned segue there to tell everyone why we're here, what we're going to talk about?
No,
because it worked well.
It worked well.
Why are we here, Scott?
I think we're still trying to figure that out, but yeah, I mean, personally, I think me and you combined have a lot of really interesting experience that entrepreneurs and professionals and even people just interested in the technology space can benefit from, or even piggyback off of things we're talking about, and hopefully come in and chat with us. Technology is this black box, especially even when you talk to people in the technology space that aren't engineers. The technology aspect of it is just this like voodoo abstraction that no one knows how it works. But I think being educated on how those things work help you make decisions to make your business more profitable or help you with your own business, getting started doing something. So that's my take on it. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you covered most of it, right? I think what at this point in our careers, I guess both you and I have different profiles, right? I'm now in senior management for engineering groups and whatnot. I've spent quite a bit of time building teams, processes, practices around building and delivering software, after having done that in the smaller, startup space. And you're still very actively an engineer, right? An individual contributor, leader on the various teams that you're a part of. So I think our two perspectives are going to be very complementary to each other, to just talk about what it takes in general to, if you have an idea, whatever that might be, it may be a business, it may not be, it may just be an idea of something you'd like to try to create and see how to get there and how to get it to go, and launch it, see if you could get feedback from people and whatnot. And I think us talking about our war stories, us walking through, our recommended practices for what they're worth. They're ours, based on years of experience, but going through some of those practices and experiences that we have, and we hope to share with everyone. Hopefully, we'll be able to provide value. To folks that are looking for trying their own hand at building a technology product, whatever that might mean. And like many of these conversations or whatever, we're hoping for as much interaction as possible, right, from all of you out there listening, so that we can steer the conversation in the direction that people find the most useful and helpful, right? We plan on doing some more technical deep dive, demonstrations, how-tos getting started. So some of these episodes will have, recordings or video recordings associated to them. Some will not. Some will be more, people related. How do you interact with, individuals, when you have, either good or bad situations, how you navigate those. What are, process, partnership, whatever, considerations that you need to take or keep top of mind, depending where you are in your venture. So hopefully we'll be able to provide some value and some tangible, actionable things for you to start your journey in technology.
I like that. I'm just gonna let you lead. That was great. It was very concise.
Until I have to show a hello world example, and then
hey, I got you. It's
computer is going to melt.
No, it's all good. No, yeah, I think that was really good. Also, something I don't see a lot of resource. This is piggybacking off of what you just said. I really liked how you open it up to people with ideas, or just people in the space of technology, or outside of like people working in tech, but maybe you just have an idea and you want to see if that's even possible. I think a lot of benefit will also come from people who are interacting with technical people in a, I don't want to say an indirect way, but like the first type of person that comes to my mind are recruiters. Like,
yep.
There's a very simple 80-20 of understanding the technological space that will make hiring more effective, and you'll be able to source the right candidates faster than maybe some people. It seems like they might just be scared, or they got put into this role and they don't know where to even start. So I'm really excited to walk through all of that. Yeah.
And just to kind of tee things up for, the next time you and I chat, right? And obviously, as you were saying earlier, it's still new, right? We're starting this thing here, this conversation, this show, for lack of a better term. So a lot of it we're still going to be ironing out based on feedback that we can get from everyone out there, right? But in your opinion, Scott, just to get things started, right? Where do you think we start this conversation and this journey? Like next week or whenever we do the next one. What comes to mind for you, right? When you have an idea, because you said you've obviously started your thing, your company.
Yeah.
You've been part of teams. You've been growing and building technology for some time. If you say have a new idea, a hobby of yours or whatever that turns into a potential idea for technology, where do you go next in your head, right? Or friends or online or whatever, right? What's next? What's the first thing you think about? And I'll then try to answer the question myself.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Something I've been seeing a lot of is these movements, for lack of the better term, no code, so you have WordPress, you have no code, you have all of these. Just get your idea out there, which I think is the most important part. Like validate, don't spend a bunch of money building a thing that you haven't validated yet. And all of the people I follow that are successful always say, hey, what's the least amount of time we can get this thing to see if we can get customers doing it? I think the next, which is important to understand your options, like how can we get something built immediately to test that we have a customer base to take step one. I think that step one is, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Is there a place where, because that's very interesting, obviously, but is there a place where you might want to do some market research and validation before even you start building something? Because you said something like, let's build something simple and cheap to test out our theory. But is there a step before that, maybe where you kind of do some market research, figure out, has somebody else done this out there, right? Already, does it already exist? Should I, ask around, look around, search, right? Or do you go straight into building?
No, I use, that's a great question. I use air quotes building in a part of the market research phase. Check, see, are there competitors? Does this exist? But we could just put up, like, it's easy to go to a website like Card and just get an email capture form, pay for some Google ads, and then see if there's an interest. Like you get a sales page. So like that's part of my market research process. You could also just go old school door to door, depending on your service, and say, I know my niche might be men or women in a certain demographic. Let's go find out where those people hang out and talk to them and just literally get out there. There's been business ventures where I just go knock on people's doors or go to, I don't know, stores and ask. So that's a really good point. Talking about the market, and something I need to get better at, and maybe that's why I glanced over it, is talking about the market research phase. The next part from that I think is really important is, where are the limitations? Once you've done market research, basic MVP, where are the limitations of the thing you've just bought into? Because if this could be the next Facebook or whatever, or this could be something that you just throw away. But knowing where your limitations are now, I think will really help you make decisions for the future. Meaning, okay, I put a no code site up in 10 minutes and people are using it. Okay, if I have 10,000 people per month using this, what are my limitations technically to make this into a custom business, like an actual business that I can throw engineers at? Yeah. That's a rant, but that's what comes to mind when you ask me that question.
And it totally makes sense. I think where I'm coming from is, both, and kind of a lot of what you just said right there was either explicitly said or implied, effort, either in time or money, right, to purchase ads, I think you said, or do a no-code site real quick and dirty and see what that's like. I'm putting myself back in the shoes where I have to go through this and do this again, right? I think I would spend quite a bit more time spending no money, not building anything, trying to understand my competitive landscape, right? For lack of a better term, just understanding, has anybody else done anything even remotely similar to this, right? And again, that's where I think, Google's your friend. People that you might know that are in the technology space, you could reach out to, talk to. I think I'm finding that there's a lot of dedicated groups on Facebook, right? Where you could go search around, look on Facebook, find groups that might talk about your subject matter, right? And see and ask questions, see what's out there. And then just do a bit of investigation there. And I would go through that even before trying a WordPress or no code or, Squarespace or whatever website, because all of those will come with some level of effort, potentially an experience, depending on your profile and background, as well as, time and money, right? And there's a lot that you can do before even spending a single dollar, right?
Totally.
And I think, I'd get a solid feel for that before going into like the quick and dirty, air quotes here, prototype or no code site, or even, a balsamic walkthrough, right? Like a click through prototype for customers, right? But that's just me.
Where do you draw the
25% success rate? So
hey, that's pretty good. Where do you draw the line on, because what I guess why I lean heavy on the just get it out there, like it's like an anxiety thing, is it's like it's that quick first step to take the next step. When I do research, I get really lost in, is this enough to validate my thing to actually move forward? And then I don't want to say insecure, but I get concerned that I might have a bias or my sample of research is swayed to then invest more time. Like where's your line of investment in terms of research to take that next step?
Yeah, and I think all of the things that you just mentioned are probably worth their own whole show to talk about, right? Because I think a lot of the art, I don't know that it's a science yet, right? But a lot of the art is to find that fine line of not going down the analysis paralysis road where all you do is spend hours and hours researching, right? But get enough that you've validated that actually, there is nothing that resembles my idea out there. So I get a pretty strong feel for this. And now I should take it to the next step, like you're describing. Or, quick and dirty might get you 20 results on, Google or whatever that shows stuff that is very, very, very similar. And if that's the case, then I would go back, not to the blank drawing board, but to a drawing board where I could try to understand, well, is there something special or different that I can bring and provide to make my product or service or offering or idea different, right? It doesn't, it's not because 5 things exist out there that you're done and screwed, right? You can come up with other value adds. But you're right. Yeah. And again, I think that's one of those where we probably talk about it forever. We have our own, few sets of, episodes and shows on that alone, just to better understand, what next.
Cool. I think we have, I really like where this conversation went. I think we have a really good, teed up next couple episodes. Yeah. Did you have any closing thoughts or anything you wanted to discuss before?
No, I think, to not just, we could go on and on and on about this, right? Which is also why we want to come up with, this show, right? Because these are topics that are worth talking about, right? That, hopefully people will find value in, and that I personally haven't seen a whole lot of available content out there that will go into these particular conversations. So we'll keep these types of conversations for, future episodes by design, right? That's exactly why we're talking. And, between now and then, maybe you and I can start thinking about something, an idea that we may want to build and kind of use that as a test case and run through, okay, so what's step 0, right?
Yeah. Do it together.
Yeah. But, for today, I guess, that was us. Startup tips. Scott and Nathan, thank you for your time, Scott.
Thank you, Nathan.
Yeah,
I know you're
appreciate
busy.
it. And we'll talk again very soon.
Sounds good.
And of course, where can people interact?
Yeah, I was actually going to ask you, did we get a domain?
It
Do we
is
have a domain
somewhere,
name? Okay.
I think.
It's not .com because they wanted too much money for it.
It's not
Um,
.com. No.
Yeah, I'm gonna go make a Spotify for us and Twitter right now. But I'll post it in the show notes at the bottom. So TBD,
Perfect.
but I'll have a better answer for you next time.
Awesome.
And then maybe we'll do a little Instagram action.
Sounds good. I love it. All right, Scott. Well, appreciate
Awesome.
it. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, Nathan.
All right. Cheers.